we're at a very critical junction right now regarding how we should rethink about our education system. When you talk to people who have used ChatGPT in their workflow, it's very different from talking to people who just heard about ChatGPT from the news. Everybody will have a companion or copilot for all different kinds of tasks they will do in the future. This whole Web2 understanding of UIs or user interface could be disrupted dramatically. Well, ChatGPT can be used for cheating, but I don't think it should be considered as cheating anymore. It's a new tool, just like you can search on Google and use StackOverflow to solve your problem. People are worried about their jobs being replaced, and it turns out that highly skilled people seems to be replaced in the first round. But at the same time, this is probably the biggest opportunity for our generation. There are a few fundamental changes. The first thing is, right now I think one programmer, especially a junior programmer, at least their productivity will increase by 10 times. Well, 10 is just a proxy number, but I have to say now, as long as you understand the fundamental technologies and how a framework works in a front-end or back-end setup, you will be able to write production-level code very easily using a natural language interaction interface. And what I meant by that is, for example, previously you have to Google on the error message that you got, and then you will probably have some web pages explaining the errors scattered everywhere on either StackOverflow or the open source packages blogs, things like that. But now, because ChatGPT has read through all the open source projects, they will be able to debug it for you so much faster than before. And even a junior engineer like myself, I started learning full stack engineer since end of last year, starting from August, and then slowly becoming medium level and start to write some full stack code by the end of the year. And since the launch of ChatGPT, I suddenly became able to write a lot more complicated code by simply raising a request myself. And this is unimaginable 6 months ago. Similarly, in data science, I remember I had a data science interview with a take-home assessment. And I have to say right now, I believe take-home challenges in programming is not very useful anymore, because even if ChatGPT cannot write the exact code for you, you can raise the right request to ask it to generate a good enough template for you to manipulate, and then you can solve the take-home challenge, I guess, 10 times faster than before. So say, for example, in my take-home assessment, I could be asked a question about, please visualize some trends of a stock price of several companies. Right? Previously, I have to be very familiar with how to use, say, matplotlib or Seaborn if you're a Python user, or how to use ggplot2 if you're an R user. And sometimes I have to say these syntax are very confusing, especially if you're multilingual in these programming languages. It's very confusing for you to figure out the exact way to visualize. Some people have good memory, some people are good at searching, but for a lot of junior data scientists, they probably sometimes got stuck on some very simple syntax. But now what you need to do is just simply say, hey, ChatGPT, here's a template of a JSON file of the data that we might have. Here are the keys, here are the values under those keys. Please write in Seaborn a visualization plotting these companies' stock prices over time. And please make sure that the font of the x-axis and y-axis are big enough. Make sure that you use some elegant color, hopefully bright color, and yeah, things like that. Just ask these kind of questions and then they will generate a template for you. So even if you don't have the exact data input for ChatGPT, as long as you provided that template data input, they will be able to generate a functional code for you to reproduce in your Jupyter notebook. I'm not saying like ChatGPT can be used for cheating, but I don't think it should be considered as cheating anymore. It's a new tool, just like everybody assumes that when you write code, you can search on Google and use StackOverflow to solve your problem. It's because it boosted our productivity from writing just raw code. But now ChatGPT is the new tool for us to increase our productivity. And even in a take-home assessment, which assumed everybody can search on Google for StackOverflow answers, now I think everybody should assume that you will have access to ChatGPT and you can ask for a template answer, and then you need to have a good understanding of how the problem should be solved so that you can ask the right question or prompt engineering question. And then your productivity will increase tremendously because of your ability to use these tools. And that leads to another interesting thought that a lot of people on, say, YouTube or TikTok are discussing a lot recently, which is people are worried about their jobs being replaced. And it turns out that highly skilled people seems to be replaced in the first round, say programmers, data scientists, or even like people who are very good at photography or Photoshop, people who are making animation or movies, or these kind of jobs might be replaced. And then the counter argument for that statement is, what will eventually replace you is not AI, but people who are early adopters of AI tools. And I very much believe this is going to be the case for programmers in the next 5 years. The way we define cheating, or the way that we define not producing these work by yourself should no longer be restricted to just, you only have access to Google search. Now we should assume everybody has access to AI tools, and whoever gets the job done faster or more elegantly should be rewarded, even though they use these smart tools as their companion, or what we call like copilot these days. Everybody will have a companion or copilot for all different kinds of tasks they will do in the future, especially for those tasks that are requiring thinking, requiring producing repeated texting in words, or repeated task in creating images. Say if you're a manga writer or if you are a picture book auditor, you probably will be able to generate these things at a much faster pace compared to before. My thoughts about this is that the next few years will be very, very interesting. The next few years will be a time when everybody is on a waiting list for some kind of AI-powered tools. Everybody will be amazed by how AI will be capable of doing to replace some of their previously redundant work, and then got bored of those excitement, and then just take them for granted, and then truly get used to it, and then fully adapt their workflow with AI. I think that's what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. Maybe it's going to come much faster than that, but this is something that all highly skilled workers especially need to be thinking about. How can you leverage AI to empower your current workflow? How can you use these tools in a much more efficient way than others? How can you master the way to ask questions such that machine can understand your questions and be able to generate something that you can leverage to produce things at a massive scale? All right, these kind of mindset will be a lot more important from now on than simply to remember a lot of the niche ways of doing things in programming, in art generation, because these so-called niche or experience or good memory will be completely replaced when humans have an external brain that will be supporting them all the time. I remember when I was in China studying for primary school, middle school, and high school, a large part of the elements in our education system were about memorizing a lot of the poems, a lot of the equations, remembering so much about some techniques of how to solve a specific math question. But in my opinion, in the future, it's all going to be not outdated. Everybody needs to be able to understand the basics, and if you're interested in that, feel free to dig deeper into those like little techniques of how to solve a math problem. But for more and more people, for our next generation, it's going to be a lot more important to learn how to think about how to change your mindset in a way such that you're able to ask the right question, to frame your intention, to frame your request in an easily understandable way, in a very clear and logical way, such that you'll be able to leverage these tools as your assistant instead of being used by them or being replaced by them. Another very interesting phenomenon is that when you talk to people who have used ChatGPT in their workflow at a very immersive way, it's very different from talking to people who just heard about ChatGPT from the news. Because I think two things. Firstly, humans are by nature conservative. We don't like changes. We prefer the traditions. And there's no good explanation for that. It could be because our nature don't want us to take risk so that we don't die easily. But when new technologies come, you always hear criticisms about, hey, AI still cannot do this. But think about it. 10 years ago, we were thinking about, hey, deep learning doesn't work. Deep learning doesn't have enough data or computing power. But look at now, deep learning is just a very, very small element that constructed the whole AI tree. Back then, people keep criticizing why deep learning won't be able to do these work. And then 10 years later, we start to criticize why AI is not very good at drawing like human hands, for example. And occasionally, if you draw a picture using DALL-E, which is OpenAI's image generation API, just like Midjourney, the human faces look really, really creepy. Right? People might just ask, hey, this is not good enough. Why should I be worried about this? But think about this like in a 5-year or 10-year time period. I'm pretty sure these AI teams will realize these problems and continue to work on these specifics of drawbacks of the current technology, and it will get better. So what's more important for us right now is to figure out what is the right mindset that we should be developing given these new technological changes. And I guess most of my thoughts shared today are my thinking regarding programmers, computer scientists, data scientists, as well as, say, artists or people who are working with photos or images. These jobs seem to be at risk right now. A very senior person could replace another 10 junior persons' work very, very easily. So it's going to be a very hard situation for new graduates or junior on the market in the next 5 to 10 years. We're at a very critical junction right now regarding how we should rethink about our education system, not just in high high school, or how do people get into colleges, but also in college education, in universities, what is the best way to teach our next generation to use these tools in all sorts of industries? But at the same time, this is probably the biggest opportunity for our generation. I sometimes complain with my friends before that people in our 20s have kind of missed the mobile revolution. Mobile phone revolution started in early 2010s, and it became absolutely growing like crazy after 2015, and then now these days slowing down. Mobile phone has completely changed how we live in the past 10 years. And I think right now, for our generation, this is a new iPhone moment for people in their 20s, or people who are still in school, or people who are interested in entrepreneurship, in startups. This is the time to rethink about how this world might function. And I think everyone should, either or not you're into entrepreneurship, starting a startup or not, or you're just interested in working in a corporate, working in a big company, have a stable life, everybody should worry about the potential risk it might have on our future work. And everybody should feel excited about how this might fundamentally change everything, and should be cautious about how we think about what is the mindset we should have for the next 10 years. Another interesting thought is that for the mobile age, user experience or building products is essentially brainstorming about how can we possibly optimize people's experience in a phone-sized screen such that they can finish their day-to-day task, like ordering food from DoorDash, booking a hotel on Expedia, booking an Airbnb, looking for flight ticket prices, buying groceries on Instacart, or for some SaaS tools at the screen of a MacBook size, how can they get their work done with easy to understand UIs? But in the future, I think this whole Web2 understanding of UIs, or user interface, user interaction, could be disrupted dramatically. I'm not saying there won't be any apps like today. I'm sure YouTube will still be like YouTube in many ways, but there's a new interaction framework, which is natural language interaction. And these days, GPT-4 has already started their API plugins feature, which means that you can just ask ChatGPT, which is connected to, say, a travel company, and ask them, hey, I would like to travel to Hawaii from April 15th to April 30th. Please find the best week and book the hotels that are next to the beach. Hopefully the hotel has a little pond or swimming pool. And please also check if there are any good activities during those days, and find me the best flights. These kind of things, if you imagine it, I'm just talking by giving instructions, and that is what natural language interaction would feel like. In the future, humans don't really need to get used to using multiple apps and getting used to all the UIs, all the icons, and how to move around the little phone that you have, and to get the task done. So the whole mindset of how we live could be changed fundamentally. Another very interesting thought is that this is going to be a very exciting time for creators, or people who generate content on the internet, because traditionally content creators have to make content themselves, and it's a very time-consuming, though enjoyable when you have good comments or good feedback. But in the future, say a blogger who wrote 1,000 articles on the internet already in their newsletters, they could easily feed those information to ChatGPT and ask it to learn how that person writes. And then hopefully you can have like a bot to interact with your fans, to answer their questions, or even sometimes write blogs for you if you just simply give them an idea or give them a simple draft and ask it to expand on it. And for videos, I'm not sure GPT-5 or GPT-6 in the future they have already invested a lot on video generation, but let's say Mr. Beast, or maybe not Mr. Beast, but for people who are just talking like me right now, if we have enough videos online, it's very easy to feed these information into ChatGPT or whatever, video GPT in the future, so that they will understand how you talk, how you look, your facial expression when you're talking seriously, your facial expression when you're excited, and they could potentially create another you online for you, which sounds scary, but if the creators use them well, I think it's going to be helping them to make a lot of contents that are way beyond the current scale. But that also causes a lot of risk, because it could potentially generate a problem, which is, what content should I trust, right? If everybody uses AI to generate contents, should I still watch their contents, or should I just maybe talk to an AI myself? So these are all interesting questions to think about. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful. Let me know how you think about the impact of ChatGPT.